Told you.
You were right. Hey there, Tyler.
You should be like, where are they?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So we were just going over MLS real quick before we get started into the regular part of the class. But MLS is a great tool, and there are a number of external links to other tools. We're just talking about showing time, which I've already loaded. Within showing time, you can check out reports. And under reports, we have the target market analysis. Go, Jess.
Go. Okay, so Andrea, you asked earlier, your clients, your listing is in Columbia Heights, and your client said, we want to list at 299,999. And you said, well, I was thinking more like 3, and I wonder if there's a difference. And I had said that Steve Rawl had told me one time that when you price something at 299,999, what can happen is people say, well, I'm going to search at 3 and up. And now you completely miss that, right? Very rarely do they say, well, I'm going to look at 299,999 and below. They say 3 and below, right? So at 3, you're hitting it. And people think they're super, not to be rude, cool.
Well, they think they're
like, I'm gonna come up with this super amazing.
They think they're a gas station where there's a lid on the price.
Right.
Keeping it under a price is magical, right? We all know that $4.99 is a completely way more affordable number than $5 even. We all know that. It's like a huge difference. It's like $4 instead of $5. But as soon as you go that 1 penny, it suddenly becomes a whole dollar more. It's magic, but it's real. That's why you have that 0.9% in gas.
Right.
It's a cent in gas.
So then what we did is we went here and we said up here, we said price range from 2 to 4. This is 1 month, right? An increment of 10,000 in Columbia Heights. And then this is where it shows what happens at 290 to 299,999. Number of showings 9. 300 to 309, 22. Big difference, right? And then look at 310 to 319. Holy cow. So not that I'm saying you should price it at this, but even if you pulled this up and you showed your clients, okay, so here's what happens if we did this. We're probably gonna have less showings. We're gonna miss out on another market. And it just makes sense to them because it's numbers and they can see it versus you going, well, I think 3 is a better number. Right, like show them the data.
The other argument that, or suggestion, process, script, whatever you want to call it, Justin and I were talking about is, all right, let's take your house. Let's say your house is $300,000. Put it on the corner, we'll put it right here. And next door, we'll put another house at $299,999. Is there anybody, you know what? Wow, I was gonna get that $300,000, but that dollar, that saved me. I'm saving the dollar. Right? You're not, that's why I said that thing about the gas station. There's nobody making that price switch where they go, I'm gonna save the dollar. Right? So it's a great thing to do if you're in retail sales where you're putting stuff on a shelf. But this is a different kind of sales and the way people search is different. And so a tool like this in showing time can be really useful for illustrating how that looks in the real market.
How did you get to the target market analysis again?
So that's under reports.
Oh, the reports, perfect.
And that's just for Columbia Heights, right? I mean, if you switch this to, you know, I mean, you can expand this beyond that, different times, what have you. You expand it for 90 days. You can find all the, you will find that this holds true consistently because 299,999. It's just not a price, it's not the way people shop in their search engines. The search engine isn't really, I mean, who wants to type 6 digits when they can type 300K? Sounds goofy, but people absolutely do their shops that way. So this is also just a generally great kind of thing to take a look at if you've got a listing and it's been there for a little bit. I mean, what else is going on in that market? What are those prices? And when you go further into it, if they're more of a percentage style standpoint, 1.8% of all showings in Columbia Heights were priced between 290 and 299. 4.5% were at the 300, 309, and almost 15% of showings were 310 to 320. So these are sweet spots for prices. 270, 279. You probably think that 274,999 is a great price for the same reason, but it turns out it isn't. 275 is not a great price for a house. It's just not. It's not the way people shop. Guess what happens at 240 and 249.9? Drops off, but 250 jumps up. That it doesn't work that way. And if you can illustrate that to them, they'll move it to the price because you wanted it to be.
So I have a question with that. So actually, it's the house they're buying is in Columbia Heights. They're listing in Northeast Minneapolis, which is almost Columbia Heights. But so I just put in Minneapolis for cities, and it's showing under 290 to 299. It's 343 showings, and then if you go to 300 to 309, then it goes down to 186.
Because
So
that market.
Okay, so I wouldn't want to show them that. That's it.
Why wouldn't we show them Minneapolis? The house isn't
Yeah. No, well, technically, it is Minneapolis, it's northeast Minneapolis.
Columbia Heights.
That's
Yeah.
where Northeast Minneapolis is the one that is being sold.
Yes, that's the
And
one. they're
Columbia
listing.
Heights is the one they're buying.
Yes.
Got it. Did they go as specific as Northeast? I don't know if they do anywhere else.
No, they don't do
So it's just gonna be Minneapolis.
Or what about like subdivisions or areas? I don't know if that makes a difference.
Because Minneapolis is so different to just
Yeah.
be, you know? I guess, well, yeah, subdivision, that's gonna be hyper specific. Well, they have different zip codes in Minneapolis, right? So maybe try the zip code one.
What's your zip code?
55418.
5541.
Okay, so it's,
Don't type with the numbers. If they're gonna get that, welcome to the city.
so it's double, pretty much, 25 to 50, yeah.
Well, don't fight with the numbers then. Take the dollar. It's gonna make a difference, take the dollar. I have never seen that outside of the city. I do this all the time.
It's more competition too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a lot of showings.
But you cannot really price your house according to this, because that's
No,
just a
you,
showing.
but if you're making a decision on the dollar, because that's where we are literally deciding this particular
Yeah,
case on
because honestly, they're
the dollar.
thinking basically how people search and what, so like we.
And showings are set
300K and 299.
by listings too, you know, so if you have crisp listing with like nice pictures and description is out there and people actually want to see it in real life, that's when the showing happens. But it doesn't matter really what price it is. If it's in the range, they're gonna go see it. So it doesn't really matter if it's $1 or 1,000 to 10,000.
If it's in the, and so the question then goes back to how do people search? And if the house is a good, great listing like you mentioned, do you want to be in the 300 and more category? Or do you want to be in the up to 300? Because if you're in the up to 300 and that's the way they're shopping, you are shopping at the top dollar limit of the buyer's ability to pay. So is that good for your seller if everyone is coming at that, right at that edge? Right? Is that the best way to represent your seller? Or do you want somebody who's looking in the 300 to 350 and maybe you're at the lower end, do you want to pick up those people who might be able to pay more in the market? And that's the question, because I mean, that's the way people physically or mentally make their decision about how they shop, right? It's not that there aren't any, but there aren't a lot of people who go, I'm shopping 250 to 350.
Right.
You know, if the mortgage broker tells them 300, then it's up to 250, it's up to 275, it's up to 300. They don't go, well, let's go up to 299.9. And then they magically get in the thing where they wouldn't have gotten in the thing. I don't know.
Would it make a difference, because like I'm looking at the CMA I did for this one, and the listing price was 265 to 325, but then the selling price was, well, it was basically 40,000 more, well, 305 to 325. So I don't know if that makes a difference too. Most people listed, underneath the 300K, then they ended up selling it for more.
Because that just shows the list price, right? It doesn't show, because it hasn't closed.
Right.
It doesn't tell you what it sold for.
So, something to think about.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Hey, Tyler, when you have questions, just shout them out, all right?
You got it.
I mean, you can also go and look and see what other houses are available at this time, right? Compare and pretend you're a buyer.
Yeah.
I always did that with clients.
Yeah.
Say, how does our house compare to the other ones on the shelf, so to speak? Do we need to put it on a different shelf?
Right.
Or can we compete with these?
Well, and then I think the other thing too that's interesting about that, like, when you look in that zip code, the very most was 260 to 269. So that tells you 125 of them, right? So that tells you that's where the high percentage of, that's a price point.
That's the price point that the
For
most
that
buyers
neighborhood.
are shopping at. in
Right.
that neighborhood.
Right, and that's where they say you don't ever want to be the nicest house in the neighborhood, because then you're never gonna get what your house is worth, right? Because everybody else is over here, and then you're basically setting the market,
No, you're pricing yourself beyond the market.
Yeah.
Because, who's gonna be that guy?
Does the Zoom class see what we're seeing on the screen, or do they see what's on the
Right
top?
now, he is seeing the screen. Well, Tyler's vision right now is this here. He is
Okay.
not seeing this.
He's
He's seeing the screen. But if I stop sharing like this,
Yeah.
this is what he's seeing.
got it.
He hates that. So I'm gonna go back to sharing it.
Just curious if I ever have to join by Zoom.
Actually, just staring at Jason.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, I mean, when I started this job, that was a complete mystery to me. So I had to run these meetings and I had no idea what people were seeing, and I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually, you get to stop share, and then you go back to share, and you figure out that, oh, I'm gonna put this on the screen so that no matter what I'm doing on the computer, this is what he's going to
Yeah.
see.
Right. That's
And that
also-
sometimes is super helpful, right? So no matter what, he's gonna see the slideshow, even if I decide that I wanna go on Firefox. He's not seeing that, he's just seeing this.
Yeah, you learn the hard way, because you look at the recording and you're like, oh my God, why didn't no one tell me that?
And
The
they
whole
don't.
time, they're like, yeah,
They're
we
super polite.
couldn't
People
see
are
your,
super polite,
couldn't
which
see your
is great.
screen. I'm like,
Well, they realize that if you can't operate the screen, there's no way they're gonna be able to communicate to you and tell you that you messed it up. Hey, you should introduce our guest.
yes, okay, so we have a guest with us, Jamie, our new
Hi.
team leader.
Hello
And, yes, so.
Hi again, Tyler.
We might have a couple other people join us, because Eli is doing a showing for buyer, and I think we might have maybe one more. Anyway, so I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves. So tell Jamie your name, where you live, and how long you've been in real estate. And something, remember, the fun thing? Something fun about yourself. It doesn't have to always be different though, because if you're with Jason and I, you always have to think up something new. But it can be something that's the
Hey,
same.
Tyler, that's Jamie right there.
Oh, look at you with the camera.
I'm watching you, Jamie. I'm watching you.
It's gonna be in the video too.
I had the honor of meeting Tyler the other day. I think it was last Wednesday.
Yes, you are correct. All right, Tatiana, you wanna go first?
I'm Tatiana. I've been with Keller Williams for a month.
2. Is it
Was
April?
it
Was it the end of April?
18th or 19th of April? So I don't know, whatever. 6 weeks, maybe more.
I guess. And yeah, what fun part is the coaching here. I like it a lot, and I kind of still looking for some kick in the butt to actually like do it. But knowledge is there, lessons are there, and I think I know what I should be doing, but I don't do it.
Did you guys all hear that? Would you just give us permission to give her a kick in the
Oh,
butt?
yeah, she was actually asking you for it.
That wasn't really a permission, that was a
Asking you
request.
for it. Yeah, so I don't know if that was a fun fact or that was my story, but that's how it is.
That's outstanding.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. And where are you from?
Ukraine.
Ukraine?
Yeah, and I'm from Ukraine, but I live the rest
I live in
Oh,
Brits.
okay.
now, yeah, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Andrea, born and raised in Minnesota. I've lived in Burnsville for over 5 years, just a few blocks, probably a mile away. Let's see, I've been here for, gosh, 5.5 months, which just blows my mind because it goes by so fast. Let's see, a fun fact about, fun fact about here, or, okay, I'll just do a fun fact about me. So let's see, I'm just trying to think random. I'm a big fantasy football person, and I've won 3 times. Not this past year, unfortunately. Too many injuries, but yeah.
For your team?
Yeah.
Not you either.
No, not me.
She
I-
broke a couple thumbs.
No, I've never
Maybe
actually-
change her roster.
Another fun fact: I've never broken a bone. Surprisingly, I'm
Oh, wow.
very surprised about that. I know. I should trip some on the way out. But,
Well, yeah, especially, yeah, she might, she's getting kicked in the butt, so.
Yeah, we can partner together.
okay. Sounds good.
Eric Skillstead, I live in Prior Lake and been here for almost 2 months. But like I said before, I had a full-time job till now October, November. And fun fact, the 25th wedding anniversary this year. And I like strategy board games and really good.
Can I pause? I want to go back to, because I remember what you said earlier. So I have a dog named Paisley too, but mine's a boy. He's named after Brad Paisley. So yours is named after Paisley.
Yeah, well, the kids want to name our girl dog Prince, because
Yeah.
Prince had just passed away.
Yeah,
And my wife's like, I don't like that name whatsoever, so we went with Paisley.
yeah.
Park, Paisley, so that's cute.
I know Paisley's
We
a
got
good
that in
name.
common.
Yeah.
So how old is he?
Like 11.
Oh,
I
man.
know, I'm grandpa, but you know those little dogs. Is yours a little dog?
Oh, 25. She's supposed to be 10, but she's an Ogden, so she's 25.
Okay.
Do you overfeed?
Do you
I do.
overfeed?
But not her, but
15 pounds over?
it was probably advertised wrong.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be a teddy bear, but she's like, she's
So was the dog advertised wrong or the food? Which one?
which one? Well, I'm sure we overfeed her, but she's big. She's big boned. How's that?
Yeah.
No, what we're supposed to say. She's not fat.
So
just
she's
a large.
longer than taller.
She's a much larger frame of an animal than we had anticipated. And I like it. She's awesome.
Jess, it also turns out that Tyler is new, so that means you have to introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Jessica Nearing. I'm the productivity coach here. I live in Apple Valley, and my interesting thing is that I'm having to deal with is that my daughter is graduating from high school on Saturday. And I've been telling people this all day long, but I walked her to school today. Not like I needed to walk her to school. I was going for a walk, we walked together. She's like, Mom, do you realize this is my second to last day of high school ever? I'm like, I'm gonna cry. She's like, don't cry, I'll cry. I'm like, I'm not crying, but this is fine. But like, you just start to like think about it, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have thought about it till like the actual graduation party, right? But, yeah, and then I gathered her pictures together today, so that was fun too, like looking at her from her preschool graduation 2008 to today. So, yeah, I'm like kind of a roller coaster of emotions.
That's your last little one.
First, the other one's 14, and if I asked her if she wanted me to walk to school with her, she'd be like, ew. So,
Not
we'll
for the
see.
next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll see what she says at her second to last day of high school. You're up.
Jason, Vincent, I'm the Director of Technology. It's a very intimidating title that says I'm here to help you with tech stuff. Also, I live in Lakeville. And, interesting fact, I get told so many interesting facts that we will go to, just in the spirit of Eric, we'll stick with the simple one. I am a nerd I am the nerd of all nerds. If there is something you think is nerdy, I have either done it, am currently doing it, or have a plan to do it, except LARP. I will have nothing to do with any live action role play. You keep that stuff to yourself, you weirdo.
Do you
So-
play Dungeons and Dragons?
Currently, I am involved in, I have a regular group that I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with for approximately 20 years.
My boyfriend's obsessed with it. He's a dungeon master and that's.
That's, oh my
Little- we
gosh.
have- Yeah, I just can't even. But it's okay, I'd rather have him do that than like video games and stuff, like actually.
Done those two. Done it, currently doing it, or plans to do it. Unless it's large. None of that to be had. You will not
I
find me in a
didn't know
park with a
what-
wizard hat.
I did not know what LARP was until I met him.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
what?
it is LARP.
That's a thing?
You dress
Live
up
action
as
role play.
characters and reenact, like for instance, a medieval battle. You might dress up
Oh,
in
that.
Yeah, I'm not in,
Oh,
that's a bridge too far.
I can see this being fun.
I'm not saying it, that's a bridge too far. That is just
I mean,
way
like Renaissance
more.
Festival, that's too far?
What's that?
Renaissance Festival, too
Oh,
far?
no, I don't dress. I go, but I do not dress.
Yeah.
That's
That's
part of
That's
it.
even weirder. Oh, you mean you, never mind.
Yeah, no,
You
I'm
don't
not
dress
taking.
up.
I'm like, I think, yeah, that's probably going way
Think
too
You
far.
might need to dress.
Jason, you should dress.
Clearly you're not familiar with the campsite.
Not actually.
And you probably don't want to be. Tyler, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Tyler? Where's he from? What does he do? And something interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I was trying to get my video going, but it didn't work. All right. My name's Tyler. I live in Elk River. We just moved here with my family. And I guess a fun fact about me is at one point in my life, I used to do street performances when I was a youngin'. So that weird part of my life is over. So now I'm doing this. So I'm a little more normal now, though.
Jason just ran in with your picture to show us.
So
Oh, there we go.
LARP on the streets?
No, never did, never LARPed.
Okay.
But one of my roommates did, and yeah, he had some interesting attire that he would wear around, you know.
Oh my God.
But, yeah.
I don't even dress up for Halloween.
People out there.
Well, excellent. Thank you, Tyler. We ready to get rolling? We're gonna do the things, get some
Yep.
stuff going. That will get us moving. We'll go back to sharing that screen. We'll put them on screen. We'll say share. Woo!
I say we dress up next class. By the way.
I will dress up as
Very good.
A
or
tech
a
director.
retail employee or a tech director. You name it, I've got costumes for it. So we talked a little bit about what Ignite is, and I talked a little bit about with Eric. This is a program that Keller Williams uses, and typically this is a 4-week, 5-day, 6 hours a day session thing. So what we've tried to do to get you guys up and running quickly and be more responsive to everybody And the times that people have available is to crunch it down to get the info to you so you can be in production as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Today is about connecting with your market, and we'll get into session 4 when we get there. But there's just a lot of great things I think that we can cover in here, and we'll try to do it efficiently so we can be respectful for your time as we go. So the other thing we'll talk about is defining your value. And these are right about talking about being the real estate expert of choice. This is the first stage. Starting next week, we're going to talk about generating leads and growing your database. And then later, we'll move into how do we follow up with leads, and finally the transaction portion of the business. But these are the 4 steps that we're going to be working through today. Connecting with your market and defining your value. Eric, can you read that for me?
Here's the truth. If it's been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it's been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how that can be possible in your world.
I mean, that's one of the myth understandings. Yes, I didn't do that. I didn't pretend to have a lift. One of the myth understandings that we often talk about is it can't be done in my market. And if it's been done anywhere, it's just a matter of you learning how to do it effectively where you're at. And so, other people's advice is, if we can learn from other people, we learn a lot faster. We learn by failing mostly as humans. But if we can learn from somebody else's advice or somebody else's methods, it doesn't matter where they're from, we can benefit. So knowing your market and connecting with it is all about research and preparation. You're thinking to yourself, holy cats, that's why we started with that MLS stuff today. And you're absolutely right. Understanding the market from that market watch section and then using the reports and showing time are super impactful in terms of what you know and how you can present knowledge to your clients. And that is market specific stuff that you can provide, because clients are going to ask. They're going to say crazy stuff like, what do you think about the market? Well, I can tell you this. I have seen more prices go down, or more homes go down in price over the last week than in the many months before that. That tells you something about the market, right? And if I'm trying to list your home, it helps in setting expectations, because if you think we're going to get an offer over the weekend, like we did a month and a half ago, that may not happen. It may, depending on the price point, the place you're at, not the conditions of the home. It may not. And I want you to be prepared for the options and what does that look like if that doesn't happen, right? There are 3 types of real estate markets. And these are the definitions that we use in the industry to talk about whether it's a buyer's market where there's more than 7 months of inventory. That's the number of homes for sale. If that number was there and we sold them on a regular basis, it would take us a full 7 months to clear that out. A balanced market where there's between 5 and 7 months of inventory. In the seller's market of less than 5 months of inventory available to be purchased. We've been in a seller's market for how long, Jamie?
Long time.
I think, 9?
It's been
9 years?
I mean, it's been a
7?
long time that's been the case.
I think you meant like hyper sellers.
And then in this calendar year,
Yeah.
the hyper sellers market, where there might have been, Steve would come up and talk and do what he calls the raw report. If you've been able to be part of the Wednesday meetings, he'll talk about that. He'll talk about that next week, or next following Wednesday, 2 weeks from now. He'll be giving his raw report and talking about that. And some of the numbers in there are fascinating, and how small the inventory is, like literally like a week or 2 worth of inventory to sell at a time.
Yeah, and when they talk about inventory, it's like we've talked about, Target. If you're at Target and you go and they put we'll use toilet paper as an example, right? Because we all know about that. If you put all the toilet paper out there, how long would it last? Like everything that they have in the store. So that's what they're talking about for the houses. And so if we had all the houses on the market and no more were added, how long would it take to sell, right? In a buyer's market, it takes 7 months. This year, it has been less than a week, right? And people are like, right? So like all the houses that go on in a week, they all sell by the end of the week. And that is insane.
Now, of course, that's mathematically speaking, not specifically speaking. But inventory is a number of properties for sale within a market. What is inventory of our market? Well, we were just discussing that. And the interesting thing is it's changing. That number is growing. The amount of inventory we have, the supply is there. What is the number of average days a home stays on the market? Right now, it really depends on price. The average price a home sells, or a house sells for, Jess, right now?
I heard like 320.
Okay.
What did you hear?
I'd say it's much closer to, but we're.
Well, and then somebody told me last week 385. So it depends on where you are.
Yes. What do you got there, Ty?
Someone told me
digging in.
354, that's what Tatiana that told me that.
I think it's 354, yeah.
So, just here.
Okay.
350 is right there.
Why did you ask me them?
Because you're smart. I wanted you to say that I was smart.
Yes, you're smart. Next time I'm gonna say, I don't know, Jason, how much?
Help me out!
What is the average home price?
Based on the inventory, what type of real estate market? And well, we're obviously in a seller's market, in an extreme seller's market, even still. There just isn't enough inventory out there to change that, and that's not going to change. One of the critical things you want to do is make contact with lenders in our areas. You can stay up to date on your market, answer any questions your clients may have about the interest rate and lending process. Interest rates, we know, oddly on mortgages have gone down in the last week or so, 2 weeks roughly. But the interest rate will be likely, the Fed has announced, well, the Fed has said we're going to raise interest rates. When they raise interest rates and the mortgage rate doesn't go up correspondingly, in the last couple of weeks where it's actually gone down, that's actually telling you that while they're trying to push it up, there aren't enough buyers out there taking out loans, so the actual interest rate isn't following suit for buyers. But understanding and meeting your lenders. So each of you have a lender that you have spoken with. Eric, you got a lender you've spoken with?
Yes.
Excellent. Andrea? Excellent. Diana? All right, good. And also Brian is 100% always available right over there, right around the corner, any Monday through Friday. I'm going to talk to him, and he'll have all sorts of great stories to tell you about New American Funding, which is a great financing company as well. Economic factors also play a big deal in the market. The employment and unemployment rate in the market, which we all know right now is very, very good, or low, I guess we'd say. How many workers are entering or exiting the workforce in your market? Right now, employment is fairly stable. There's not like a lot of layoffs going on or something like that. Or we've not got word that a new company has decided to headquarters here. You know, like a big company with Amazon where they're coming to build a new, big, huge Amazon. I call it a base at this point. And bring in thousands of employees. That would be definitely impacting the market as a whole. What is the growth rate of our community? Minneapolis and Minnesota are growing communities. We are adding citizens in this state, where states like California right now continue to lose citizens. So that impacts the price of housing. Is something you can talk about as well. And has the government made any changes, rules, and regulations that might affect the housing market? Those things can be super hyper-focused. Like say you make a decision about your police force and say, I want to disband the police force. That can absolutely have an impact on people buying or selling in that place. Some people are going to say that's the best thing ever and want to move in. Some people are going to say that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, want to move out. But that changes the market, and your job isn't to make decisions about whether that's right or wrong. Your job is to communicate the impact it has on the market. And so those are things that you need to be aware of and how they play out and how you interact. Other things to investigate, specifically neighborhood numbers. If somebody's interested in buying a home in a town that you're talking about, you should know what's nearby. I mean, there's nothing wrong if you know you've got a scheduled showing on the weekend, take time to drive around in that area so you have an idea of what you can tell that consumer about beforehand and say, hey, here's some things you can expect to see. Here's some, you talked about this being important to you. Here's how far. We had a buyer who bought a house in Coon Rapids, and they could not wait to come back to Minnesota and go to Texas Roadhouse. And here's the distance from Texas Roadhouse. Here's the distance to your Culvers. And that is information on every house I provided to them. I am not joking. Nearby health facilities, they want to know where the YMCA was, because they want to know how far is that away? Those are things good. And neighborhood attractions. How far is it to Target Field from here? You a Twins fan? How far? Is there a way to get there? What does that look like? How is it easy to get in and out of parking garage C from where you're at?
Another thing is, like I just thought of is, when I hear, like Tina, we were talking about Farmington, how Farmington doesn't have, and Eli, it doesn't have like a grocery store. It doesn't have a lot of stuff. So if people want that, right? The other thing is that because it doesn't have that stuff, the taxes are high, right? Because it doesn't have anything to offset it. So those are things that you wouldn't know unless you are actively in that area. And if you wanted, if your client's like, I don't live in Farmington, right? If they don't know that, that's an important thing for you to pass on to them, because you'll start looking at taxes and you're like, how are they so high, right? So
you move across the line
Yes.
to Lakeville, you have an Amazon
Very
distribution
different.
facility, a FedEx distribution facility, you have the airport now, that's part of Lakeville. There's so many other sorts of things there that the tax base is much more diversified.
Right.
Which changes the game. So many things that are ways that you bring value to your client by understanding the local market. And being able to talk about those intelligently is important. So,
and it helps to know the agents in this office and where they live and kind of what area that they have focused in on, because if you have a buyer for there, like, I would say, that's what I would do, is if I had somebody from Farmington, I'd contact you and Tina, and I'd be like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I need help with, what should I tell them, right? Because I don't know Farmington, right? And then
all you need to know is Perfect Butcher Grill.
that place is so good.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
Whiskey and smoked meats.
Yeah.
So, anything catch your eye, Diane? What anything that you thought about? We talked about kind of that stuff. What's something that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, it's a lot of stuff to know, and really you need to be updated on it.
So how are you gonna update yourself?
Well, I'm probably gonna Google it and make some notes and then post that information.
When you set up a neighborhood nurture for any of your clients, if you click on that house in the neighborhood, any of the houses that show up in the neighborhood nurture, you can look and they'll give you information about distance to schools, popular businesses and attractions that are right there. So that's one way that you can kind of speed up that process, but you are always going to have to do that. Now, that's one of the reasons also why when you're looking at your bios and your marketing profiles and things like that, you might not list Chaska. I mean, I don't mind working in Chaska. So you put Chaska there, but know that if somebody says they're interested in Chaska, as soon as that comes up, you gotta hit the books. Learn about Chaska. I don't know anything about Chaska myself. And reach out to those resources so that you're ready to develop on that. But your home, like right here, your hometowns, those are things that you've got to start building up those knowledges and getting super comfortable. I mean, Burnsville's a fantastic place because of the convergence of the two freeways, right? I mean, right off the bat, always going to be busy.
Hello.
Hi.
How's everybody? Good.
Amazing.
Good. Awesome. All right. Have a good day.
Thanks for stopping by.
And another thing was I seen agents do on social media that they like what's new on the market. And weekly they just do like what's happening or what's in this like neighborhood or what in this town for those people that actually thinking to like move into this state or this neighborhood. So I think that's really nice, and you can get more people involved in your market kind of, and they see your face and you tell them what's new, and if you want to know more, give me a call. And so that's really good strategy too.
How about you, Andrea? Anything that stuck out to you in particular?
Well, I mean, that's something to do better on. I feel like just because, I mean, I feel like my focus is just so broad kind of instead of, so like, for example, like before open houses and stuff, I do the, I look at the, what is it called? Is it InfoSparks? Not, or, yeah. And then that has helped a lot. So that way I know that market information, especially if they're maybe questioning, kind of like the average, the price per square foot or something like that. And then what else? And then, yeah, I just like to, I mean, I have a good idea, especially like around here, since I live over here, like, I don't know what's kind of popular and stuff like that, but yeah, definitely need, I think, the RAL report helps too. I always look at those numbers every Wednesday. It's a lot of numbers and it's a lot to take in. So it's just like trying to, like, not like, what's most important and obviously to, you'll have to cater it to every certain individual or every certain market area.
All right. So building your expertise to become the real estate expert of choice. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, right? Is building your knowledge so that you are an authority in your area on what's going on. It takes time, it takes practice, and it takes a focus. What are the steps to building that expertise? Market, learning your clientele, listening to people, keeping the headlines in context. And as we talk about those things individually, we talk about knowing your lore. It starts with the language of real estate, right? Can you tell us about lore? Because you're a lore kind of gal, right?
Lore. I don't know. What is lore? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so it's really cool because it bases the numbers that happen with with SPAR with our office. And so they have them side by side. And what you can do is use that information when you go on listing appointments. And because you are brand new, you don't base it on, well, this is the business I've done, right? This is the business that our office does, and look at how much better it is than the SPAR or whatever. Is it SPAR? Right, it is SPAR. Base it on that, and people are like, oh wow, yeah, your office is doing really well. And then it also shows the numbers as far as how many listings we had, how many pendings we had, how many contracts were signed, right? And then what you can say is we have 200 agents in our office, and I can, if we do it withheld, I can market that to all 200 agents, and we might be able to get something done before you go to the market. It depends on what their motivation is, right? But the language of real estate is super important, and is it monthly that Matt does he do a little thing on it at the meetings? And then if you take that graphic, and sometimes people will share that, or they'll use that for their appointments and pull it up, and it's the most recent one, and that's also a really good thing. And when you have super analytical clients, they love that, because I am not super analytical. So when I know that I have people like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this great information. They're like, oh, yeah, they use that, right?
So Matt gives that information at the second Wednesday of the month at the ALC meeting, at the same time as the team meeting, except it's in the second Wednesday. Now, you're always welcome to attend the ALC meeting, but I will stress to you that the ALC meeting is a very different meeting than the other meeting. You don't get to speak unless you're on the ALC. Okay, listen, at some point they open the floor for your input, but it is a meeting for the ALC. You are literally a spectator in this, and there to learn and hear what's going on. And they vote on various things and stuff like that. And they do, at some point, once they're content with their discussion, open the floor for questions and things like that. But it is very much their meeting. You just get to be along for the ride, which is all. And you can learn a lot about our business in that view, the actual business of the business. versus some of the other things. A huge part of learning the market as well is knowing your business and how things are changing. So right now, Mega Agent Mastermind was this afternoon, and some of the best agents we have in the office were here, and they were talking in general just about the changes they noticed in their business and how they've had to take some price reductions for the first time in months on houses. And knowing that is a great place to then go to the next step and say, all right, so I'm experiencing this. What does it look like at the MLS level, right? Which is State Paul Association, North Star, et cetera. What does it look like there in the 7 counties? What does it look like in the 12 county area based on what's happening to me? Am I the anomaly? Is this just weird because I have a weird listing? Or is this what's going on in the market? Or at this price point? Knowing your business is super important. Learning your clientele. Who are the buyers? Who are the sellers? And does the market benefit your clients? Or does it put your clients at risk? Those are questions. I mean, there's a first order question, who are my buyers, who are my sellers? And there's a second order question. How does it benefit my clients or does it harm them, right? So if I understand my clients, right, are these long-term people who are looking and they're really opportunities for me? Or are they immediate searchers in the market? And does the interest rate impact them? Do you need to find a house today? Because if we wait 2 more months and the interest rate goes up, how does that impact your buying power, right? Or, you know, is a seller better waiting a week or so? Understanding those sorts of things are important to this process. Listen to individuals. Talk to your peers. Talk to other people in related businesses. Talk to the person who's doing inspections. Talk to title people. And where do they find things? And when you're talking to them, for the love of man, listen to what they say. They have so much to offer that you have to be listening. You also have to be listening to what they're not telling you as well. Because people tell you as much about what they don't say as what they do. And so when you're talking to that lender and they're talking about what's going on and different things, what are you not talking about? You know what I mean? 6 months ago, we were talking about how much you would get approved for a jumbo loan, and suddenly I've not heard a word about a jumbo loan in Coon's age, right? That's no longer a discussion. Now we're talking about what does it take to get some first-time buyers into the market. That's what we talked about today, and then say we need to start with our lending partners, for example. So be present to accept that. And then keep the headlines in context. Read that, the headline is just a headline, the story is underneath. And dig into that because it makes a difference in what's going on and the numbers that you know are already there, right? Because I mean, right now, if you were to Google, what is the market going to look like in 6 months? I promise you, you can find an article that tells you it's going to be fine. I promise you can tell an article that's going to tell you it's going to be terrible. And you can probably find one that's going to be neutral. You can find any of them. And the answer is, doesn't nobody know. So you've got to know what your numbers are and then keep those headlines in context. But what does the article really say? Why does this person think it's going to be neutral? And do those jive with what you're seeing and what you're hearing? Or do you really see what that person is talking about with, you know, potentially being really bad? I mean, you've got to be able to talk, because if you think your clients aren't reading that stuff, you're not their only source of information. They're reading it. And what they want to know is what your professional input is based on all the information. Eric, anything in that section stand out to you?
Can you go back a slide?
I can. This one or one?
I think it kind of jumps off of what you showed us at the beginning. The learn the market thing was big for me just because I haven't delved into the MLS much. I haven't had my training until next month on that. And so just being able to see that dashboard where it shows the market slowing down was big to learn tonight.
That's crazy. I mean, and to put it further in context, when Olivia brought up the number today, and she at the meeting, and that was at 12:30 the meeting started. She checked that just before the meeting started. it was 58 houses that had gone down, that had taken their price down at 1 o'clock, and now it's up to 118. I mean, that's a huge number over the course of the day,
Oh, yeah.
when, again, a few months ago, that number would have been 7,
Mhm.
10. And the number of houses that are going to, like, that are falling off the market, I mean, that just wasn't, I mean, you had a real strong suspicion that those houses were just, but now the numbers are starting to climb, and that's a place for you to jump into business. Because chances are they're going to.
I think the listening to individuals is huge too, just from being in the business world and learning from somebody, whether they're a manager, whether they're a coworker, just somebody that does a certain other type of business. I mean, everybody gets wisdom throughout their life and through life experiences. So discounting anyone just because they're a janitor or somebody that you think, oh, they can't help me, is foolish. You should always, like you said, be listening at all times, be willing to get advice from anyone, regardless of who it is, just to grow.
Jim, you want to comment?
Well, I don't know, is that lore or lore? Language? You said, is that listing here? No, I mean, I just wanted to share, something that struck me earlier is you guys are experts already. I mean, what's an expert? Someone who knows more really than most people in a certain given area. How many years experience of agents do we have here, right? You're on that team, so you've got all that research. So like my first year, I said I'm gonna hit a certain goal. I wanted to make sure everyone knew, look, you got the best of both worlds. I'm new, so I wanna make sure I get everything done right, but I've got X amount of years behind me. So you get the best of both worlds. So you're already an expert. Are you an expert compared to Jessica? No. Well, maybe. But don't sell yourself short, you know what I mean? You guys are experts, and you know more than the clients. Sometimes though, the clients have done a lot of research, but they're getting it from sources that aren't always accurate. So your job might be just to be
Right, the best is little, hold on, so
Exactly.
little price sensitive.
educated. Exactly. But anyway, I just want to encourage you on that, because you guys are already experts.
Utilize your apps. Kettleman's apps connect to your market, whether you're using Command to stay in touch with your clients. Command, and everybody here has the KW app, right? You don't have it, everybody has it. So knowing your market and building your expertise are critical parts. Eli, haven't picked on you yet. Anything you'd like to add or jumped out at you from today's lesson?
I mean, definitely starting out for me, I know I need to study the market, and especially in where I want to work, I need to know all the numbers off the top of my head. But starting out was hard to find those numbers. I didn't know how to find them, where to find them, how to do it on the MLS or any of that. So that was definitely a struggle for me in the beginning, but.
Anybody a Miracle Morning person? Miracle Morning. Premise of Miracle Morning is the author reached out to successful people across numerous industries and came up and said, what do successful people do? And came up with 6 things that successful people do: meditate, exercise, read, journal, I can't think of all of them. They sleep. They do sleep.
They eat.
They diet is not part of it, but at any rate,
They were both there.
I know. All of a sudden it eluded me, and I just came to me as you were talking about that, Eli. And so what he said is, if this is what these 6 things are what successful people do, I'm going to take 10 minutes every morning and do each of them. It'll take me an hour, and that is 1 hour in my day that I'm going to build this routine where I do this stuff. And if you take just 10 minutes every day to say, I'm going to learn something about the market in this 10 minutes today. Do that tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. it doesn't take long to turn where you're already an expert to becoming at a level that's far beyond anybody around you. Because right now, to Jamie's point, you are an expert. But now if you actually just, it doesn't, well, I think a lot of times what we do is get overwhelmed by the possibility. But the reality is just 10 minutes a day of reading the newspaper about things that are relevant to your business, or 10 minutes a day of figuring out what's going on in Bloomington. That's all it really takes to get to a level that people are gonna go, wow, man, that guy knows a lot. And so that's a great way to do it. And Elrod is the author of Miracle Morning. He also writes a Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents book, and those are great places to start. And I promise you, it's a lot better than, I think they do meditation, which was my presentation. I can't remember. Silence.
First one. Affirmations.
Affirmations. Good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Visualization.
Visualization.
Exercise. Reading. Scribing.
Writing, journaling. And those are, that's distilled wisdom from experts in fields of numerous varieties. That's what they do. Why wouldn't I do all of them? If that's what successful people do, and these aren't just like monetarily successful people, included pastors and authors in numerous and all kinds of different fields, to get a sense of what people who are at the top of their field are doing, those 6 things. It's probably a good thing. Let's turn the second section over to you, my friend.
Okay,
There you go.
do I have to sit up here?
You can do whatever you want. I can do the clicky if you want to sit
Okay.
down there.
There we go, let's do that.
Defining your value?
Oh my gosh.
This seems like your alley.
Value. Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, about defining value.
So, 4th section of being the real estate expert, defining your value.
So your value proposition, we talk about this a lot, like what are you gonna bring, right, to people? And kind of like what makes you stand out. So let's go around the room. Okay, Eli, you wanna read first? Number 1.
Is a unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that expresses the true value of working with you.
Okay, Tatiana.
Addresses the specific and special needs of the buyer and sellers in the market.
States what you will do for your client to earn your commission.
Holds you accountable to high standards.
Nice. Okay. Jamie, you get to do that one.
Top agents can easily explain what services they will provide to anyone who hires them.
Right? I mean, you know,
That's pretty straightforward. What am I gonna do for you?
right? What are you gonna get when you work with me?
There's somebody I run into all the time who's like, what's the value? Right? I mean, you gotta be able to explain that to who you're working for. I mean, right? If you're getting 2.7 or 3% of this deal plus a brokerage fee, what value are you actually providing that makes you the selection versus anyone else? I mean, we've joked about this, Jess and I, but if there was a guy who called the front desk right now, or a buyer who came up knocking on the window and said, hey, I want to buy a house, and I brought him in here and said, all right, we're doing live interviews, I've got a buyer right here, Eli, why would you be a better choice than the 4 people next to you? What are you gonna say? What makes you stand out? How are you gonna win that business right now? Who are you? Because you're amazing, but you gotta figure out a way to communicate that to this person, because they don't know that yet. And you've gotta be able to explain what's amazing about you.
I have an example for this. I was setting up Google My Business page, and it comes to description, and I'm like, oh, what I'm gonna write there? So I go to Google and I just copy paste. You know, I know the market, I know the, like, every agent should know, right? And then I give it to my friend to check on me and like, just check if it's looking good. He's like, delete, all of it, just junk. I'm like, what do you mean? It just means all of this. He's like, yeah, you have license. That's why you better know the market. you better be knowledgeable, you better be like knowing what you're talking about, and you better do this and this and that. So he's like, delete all of this because everybody who has the license already knows
Right.
that. So he's like, write something about yourself, what makes you different. I'm like, ooh, I'm so different, you know, and I just go on and on. I'm like, there is not enough symbols in the limit. You know, and he was like, that's way better. And I'm like, okay.
Excellent. We, and you bring up an excellent point. I used to have a coach who talked about what he called table stakes issues. When you have a license, that's just understanding the market, to your point, that's just table stakes. You can't even play the game if you don't know that kind of thing. It's the ante to the poker game. You don't even get to get in the game if you don't know this stuff. So what do you have beyond that? How are you going to deliver your value proposition and how you communicate it? I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to now because I'm interested. And I'm probably going to say, I'm just challenging just a little bit and say, all right, in another setting, if I had to say this in 5 minutes or less, what would that sound like, right? What if I had to make a really quick one? So here's one, here's two, right? And you probably have an answer for that.
Or 30 seconds.
Right,
Like
bam,
your
bam,
elevator.
bam, bam, 30 seconds.
30 seconds, like your elevator,
I've never been in an
Yeah,
elevator.
The keywords.
your elevator pitch. You have been in an elevator.
Oh my God, where?
Here.
Oh, I did, that's right.
I always make
Sorry.
friends in elevator. Always. All my friends come from elevator.
Hey, are you thinking about buying a house? Meet me in the elevator, buddy.
That's a
I've got a
proposition.
pitch.
What?
Exactly.
Okay, so benefits of a value proposition. So it helps your clients understand your value and expertise. So you're articulating what you do well. And, you know, I was talking with Tatiana earlier, and the biggest thing is, like, I just picture it. If somebody came in here, and I know it would be kind of weird if we were all against each other, but let's just pretend you're talking to one person and they're like, well, what can you do for me? Well, what you want to do is always be asking them questions, because the person asking questions is the one who controls the conversation, right? So then you say, well, what are you looking for? Get them talking. Because as soon as they start talking, now they're comfortable with you. And at the end of the conversation, they'll be like, oh my gosh, you are so great to talk to. You totally get me. I did not say a word. Thank you. I'm
Sometimes,
super
you
glad you
know,
like that.
You gotta do
it's like,
some nodding, don't let her kid you. You do have to nod every once in a while.
Yeah, you have to make some noises,
don't
right?
forget that.
Write things down. But you know, that's what is gonna happen, and then that, you know, protects your commission. Like, the thing is when people say, oh, you know, are you, you know, what's your commission? 6%. You go lower? No. Okay, so, right, and then you move on. Like, it's just not a thing. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, okay, well, you know, they start to feel guilty about the question. I mean, I just had to ask. Yeah. I know you did. Okay.
Did we have a conversation about that today?
Yeah.
Where's the place they could discount?
Where's the place they can discount? The broker admin fee, right.
Now, normally I charge $9.99 for my broker admin fee, but because you've been such a longtime friend, I want to provide, you know, hey, $4.99 for you.
You're Tatiana's $7.99.
There you go.
Done.
It is whatever it is,
Love it.
right?
Getting better.
It is exactly, it is what it is, right?
Make it work for you.
And because you're listening to them, it's building strong and trusting relationships, right? Because they know that you have their back. And that's what is so important about your value proposition. Oh gosh.
There's some actual examples of a value proposition from well-known companies.
Oh, Slack. Slack makes it downright pleasant to work together.
I'm not, that might be their value proposition, but I think they're failing.
I don't have that feeling about Slack, but, okay, Airbnb. Airbnb exists to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere, providing healthy travel that is local, authentic, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable.
I think that's a really interesting statement. You know, Airbnb has changed the way I travel.
Yeah.
I'm far more willing to just kind of let her rip, man. And find out what, you know what I mean? It used to be figure out a hotel and book that thing for a week, and is this hotel centrally located? You know what? I can find a bunch of different Airbnbs and go to a bunch of different places.
You know what? I'm staying at somebody's house and they're gonna be in the next room. That's what I'm
Behind
doing.
you with the camera.
Hey,
Right.
you never
My husband would
know.
be like, wrong, we are not doing that ever. We're staying at Hampton Inn the entire way.
Oh, yeah.
He
All
wants,
in Express.
he wants to be able to count on things. He doesn't want to think about somebody recording him.
QuickBooks, send invoices in minutes and get paid 2 days faster. One of the things I like about that one, I singled that one out personally, get paid 2 days faster. It gives the listener a tangible effect. I know exactly what I'm getting if I choose you. 2 days I am getting paid quickly. And I like to get paid, and getting paid faster is better than getting paid faster than slower. So I'm gonna choose that one every time. I don't know where they came up with that number. Maybe it doesn't matter. But it's, I mean, those are examples of a value proposition that they're talking about. Everyday low price for a broad range of goods that are always in stock in convenient geographic locations. They wrote that before this year or last year, the last few years, because there's a lot of things that aren't in stock right now. Egg noodles, for example.
Okay,
Gone. Thanks.
Can I say something back about that? So the other thing too is when you're trying to figure out what your value proposition is, you know, you want to find like a niche, like what is it that I really like doing? What am I passionate about? And then you can ask the, you know, people that you're going to work with, or just ask your sphere, you know, what is it that's important to you when you're buying or selling a house, right? And they'll start to tell you. And then you're like, ooh, you know what, I really like to do, okay, an example would be like Christina Meyer. She likes to do staging, so that's a niche that she does for her clients and helps them get their house ready. And so that's something she can use. I hear a lot that people are stressed out, that they have to worry about all these different things. So that's one thing I say is I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna make this super simple for you. And I have different people on my team. I have a transaction coordinator, I have an admin, like, we're just gonna get it done. You don't even have to worry about stuff, right? And so figure out what it is that is a stressor for them, or what's going to be like, oh yeah, thank God, I have to hire Tatiana because then I don't have to worry about this, this, and this, right?
Oh, anything at all.
Right.
Nothing, no worries, zero.
Zero worries.
I messed up that guy, he should be in the service.
That looks good.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have thought anything different.
That's a good design.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Okay, so connect to your value, KW and market center value, fiduciary and market expert. So all of these things, we have, you know, our values are God, family, then business. And so I will tell people that, right? I tell them like, here's what our beliefs are. And I see that that's important to you as well. And, you know, if volunteering is important to them, I talk to them about Red Day, you know, whatever it is that ties into them where they're like, okay, these people get it, or this person gets it, right? Fiduciary, making sure that you are watching out for their money, right? Watching out for their needs. And then like we talked about with the MLS, being a market expert. So if we talk about golden letters a lot, we talk about door knocking. So pick the market you want to be an expert of, and then be consistent. It's not going to do us any good if you're doing golden letters to every single house in Burnsville. Like, you're not going to be the local expert of the entire area of Burnsville, right? You're gonna know, like, start with a neighborhood, right? And I don't remember who I was talking to today, but I was saying, you know, like if you have 500 homes that you consistently do a 36 touch with, you're going to be able to grow that versus, well, I'm just going to do a golden letter to everybody one time all of Burnsville. Well, but then you're not consistent, and then they hear from you one time, right? So make sure that when you're thinking about being a local expert, like figure out where it is that you wanna focus on, and then be consistent and stay there.
So, Kelly and I, we know our neighborhood. We have a 200 house perimeter that we have defined, and that's our farm. And whether it's door knocking, we think of all the ways we can be involved with these people. If there's any sort of marketing we do, it has to touch those people. That's our farm, that's our fence, that's our household sphere, and anything that happens within that, we feel like we need to know. I don't think that everyone in that area is going to list with Kelly, because they might have an uncle, they might have a brother, but I need to know that that's the case, and I don't want any surprises in that 200, right? Now, my goal is 100% to get every one of them and show them why I'd be a better choice than their uncle who is clueless. But the reality is I have to accept that there might be a couple that escape out of that thing. But I am the expert in that area. I know what schools, I know the teachers, I know the police officers, I know that thing. We door knock it, walk it, we email it, we send sensations it. If it's going on, we know it. And they see me out there every day walking the dog. Hey, how you doing, brother? And they see my wife out there walking the other dog. I mean, you own that space, and you do it in every way that you can. And that's being and establishing yourself as a local market expert, right? I'm not a huge guy on talking politics, but I will talk about our mayor in Lakeville, our previous mayor, Matt Whittle. This man door knocked every house in Lakeville, every single election. And in addition to door knocking every house in Lakeville, every single election, if your child was graduating, you could send him a textbook or a Facebook Messenger or an Instagram, and he would come to your child's graduation. He went to all 3 of my kids' graduations. And the third one, he's like, what a pleasure to be back. Like he knew he'd been there. Now, I don't know whether he knew he'd been there or not, but he sure seemed like he knew he'd been there, and it was wonderful. And I'm telling you, that's a guy that I trusted, even though his views were not mine. I vote for him every time I see him, and anything he runs for, because his real views are that his community matters, and his appearance matters, and him knowing you and you knowing him is important to him. And whether I agree on these little weird issues aren't nearly as important to me as voting for the human I know. And the same thing is true of you as a real estate agent. Do they know you, or do they know that shop? And if that's what that's fine, but there's gotta be a certain area where they know you, where you're the expert, where you're the person of choice. And you gotta define that space and own it. Because when the shift that we're in right now continues to happen, that's what's going to keep you afloat. That space. You own. No one gets through here without my permission. So I just keep stealing the money.
Yes. Oh, look at right there. We could have just hit fast forward.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
No, I didn't know that. I'm saying that now. I know that now.
Well, what is it, under nearly 200,000
Yeah.
agents worldwide?
Well, let's see. Let's move Tyler. He's hiding out here in the corner.
Yes. Oh, it is 200,000. So, I think in the US it's 172,000 or something. And what's cool about that is that you can be a referral partner with them, right? You meet somebody in Boise, Idaho, you can go on command and start talking to somebody, and you can send them business and make money on it, right? And then fiduciary, obviously, you want to be the resource, not the source, right? So you're pointing people to reputable resources. And what do we always say? How many should you point them to? If you have a lender, yeah, 3, right? Because you don't want them to come back and be like, well, you told me this one person and it didn't work and now I want to sue you. Or whatever.
I can promise you that in that 200 circle, if somebody in that 200 circle is one of these resources, they are always pointed out among the 3.
Right.
Right? So if there's an accountant in that circle, I know the accountant. I know the title person, mortgage person, the guy who works on cars. I know the guy who installs your cable. I know them all because I've built that relationship with them. And I would refer them business because I know them. I can trust them to do the job.
And market expert, right, because you can help them price the home because you're tuned into the market of the moment.
At the moment. You know what? I'm not a market expert. I'm a messenger of the market. Right. The market is its own thing. I know a lot about it, but sometimes I've just got to explain to you what's going on.
And you can use that when they say, well, how much do you think my house is worth? How much should we price the house at, right? That's your job and you're the expert on that. And you say, well, guess what? Here's what I see. And no matter what, the market is what's going to tell us what it's worth. I, as a human, am not gonna be able to tell you until we get it on the market and people start to see it, right? I can tell you what has happened in the past and what things are listed for. And really the market is gonna be the people in the market are gonna be the determining factor of what that's worth.
Andrea, it's not that I don't think your house is worth $400,000, but as a messenger of the market, the fact that we've had no showings in 3 weeks, it indicates that people aren't seeing the value at that price. You know what I mean? It's not me, it's not you.
Right.
Market, I am its messenger, informing you that we might need to consider lowering that.
Oh, ahas. Okay, who has an aha? Tyler, do you have an aha?
I would, in this last section, I think my aha would be, well, I guess the consistency. That's what I picked up is like you could, send a letter out to 1 million people, but if you're not reaching out again, then it's kind of a waste. So yeah, the consistency.
Yeah, and so many times people are like, well, I had a client event and only 2 people came. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is that you talked to all 200 people in your sphere and 2 people came and that's awesome. And now you can follow up with everybody else because they don't all know that only 2 people came, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, we had such a great blah, 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 right? And so it's just all about staying top of mind because as you know, if your dentist didn't send you an email about signing up to get a new appointment or whatever, like, would you do it? I don't know if that's a good example, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't hear from somebody, how likely are you to use them?
On the real estate business, it's not nearly as what you might think. Something on the order of 82% of people say, I would use my realtor again when asked after this immediately following a sale or purchase of property. The actual number that use them is about 14%. So
they want to.
So they would like to, but over the course of time, something changes. Don't let that something that changed be you.
Right. Don't drop the ball. Yeah.
Tyler, to your point about consistency, Bruce Lee said, I would rather face a man who's practiced 1,000 kicks one time than a man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. It is consistency that wins the game.
Yeah.
And if you're trying 1 million different things, you're never going to get great at any of them. But if you do one thing, you work at it consistently, you're going to be not just great, but amazing at it. And that makes you unstoppable.
Purpose of real estate. Okay. I'm gonna have you read, Jason.
Oh, yay!
Yay!
For buyers, their goal is to find the right home at the best price in the right time with the least number of problems. For sellers, their goal is to net the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least number of problems.
I have a question.
Yes,
Could that be your value proposition?
you would want your value proposition to address those things. And if you don't pick up smoothness, that's a killer. I mean, has anybody heard that moving is stressful? Has anybody heard that? Has anybody moved?
Does
and
anybody
found it
like to
be
move?
stressful? It is. And so your first thing has got to be to take that off the plate, right? Take that off of their plate. I'll make this easy for you. Here's how I'm going to do that. A team of all these agents. I've got folks that you can speak to that I've worked with in the past. We work great together. A great relationship with these people, with this particular thing. And I've got a proven method of marketing your house that I've learned from agents in my office who use it time and time again throughout this industry to produce the best results. Here's those results. Remember we talked about comparing your results to SPAR. Here's what that looks like. Want to be on the winning side, or you want to go on the random side? I'll take the winners every time.
An example of that is back in the back, we have those preferred vendor things, and there's one for 2 men in a truck. Just open it up and it's a card for $50 off. Like, you can have that in your, like, after they sign, you can be like, and here's one of the people that I work with, right?
Moving
And,
truck, thinking about moving, you gonna move your stuff? Would you like to save money?
right.
Of course you would. That way you can pay me more, because my broker admin fee just went $50. Oh, sorry.
Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry. Okay, top 10 service areas for buyer value proposition. Okay, so a needs analysis. What do you think that is? Needs analysis.
So
What?
Or
in the
Do-
buyer,
or what they need,
Yep.
what they're
Or
looking
buyer.
for,
Yep.
like bedroom.
Exactly. What do you need? Like, that's the first thing you're saying to them is, what are we doing here? Like, right? Why do you want to move? What do you need when you move? Second one, what do they need to have? Money, right? Not gonna get very far without it. And, you know, side note, that's the two things. Is do you have an agent and do you have a lender? Right, because if they have either of those, if they have an agent, you're done. And if they don't have a lender, we need to get one before we can go on showing. Neighborhood information, so, I had somebody say to me, do you want a referral? They want to be within 2 hours of the Twin Cities. What? So that could possibly be Wisconsin, Iowa, I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. So make sure that you can help hone in on that, otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of money in gas, right? Which then leads to the home search. So you want to really rein that in, and what you can do is say, you have to kind of, like Jason said, you gotta be savvy about it. You know what, I really don't want to have you waste any time going to a house that may not be a good fit. So I want you to go on Google Maps and get an aerial view. If there's a water tower in the backyard, you probably don't want that. MLS is not gonna show us that. The other thing is there could be power lines going through the backyard, right, whatever that is. The other thing is, if you haven't been to that neighborhood, maybe drive by. Make sure that it is a street or an area that you like, because once we get there, as you know, the seller's done a whole bunch of stuff to get ready, and now we're just not gonna see it because you can't stand it. Or I don't like that street, right? So, saves you a ton of time, and I think Chad was telling me the other day, back in the day, he used to show like 15 houses. He's like, now we show like 3, because we really hone in on it. We get exactly what they want. We're seeing 3 houses and we're doing number 5. We're making an offer, right?
and the other thing you want to keep in mind too, when you're talking about verbiage is not just, I don't want to waste your time, but I also don't want you to fall in love with a place that isn't gonna do what you want, right? You understand your customer, they're gonna have different motivations. Some are gonna be money motivated, some are gonna have a different motivation, like, I walked into the place, it is my dream house, and it's $30,000 more than you can afford before we even begin, right? Or, you know what, it's the best house ever, but I will not live under those power lines. Let's not even take you to a place where you have to compromise some of your choices. Let's just not even, if that's a drop dead issue for you, let's not go there.
Yeah, and really doing as much research as you can, so send them all the supplements on the MLS, get any information you can from the listing agent, so that you're not going there and being like, oh yeah, oh, I didn't know, they don't take DBA, or they don't take FHA. Like, what? Why are you showing a house? You know what I mean? So make sure that you do your homework, right?
The HOA says no fences, so your dog's gonna have to be on a leash.
Oh, that's a deal breaker. Oh, okay, sorry. Negotiating to buy, what does that mean? Negotiating
Is
to
that
buy?
basically just negotiations?
Yeah.
Like that?
Right,
Okay.
so you're gonna be, I mean, you're gonna, these are things, these are services you are providing, right? You're gonna contact the seller, you're gonna talk with the seller on the buyer's behalf. You're gonna find out what are the things that make this seller tick. Is the closing date super important to them? Are there other conditions that would be valuable to them that you can use as part of your offer to make your offer stronger than somebody else's? So those are parts of the negotiation in there. And one of the things that our good friend Scotty talked about today was making it clear to that seller, don't walk away from me today if it's just a small matter. Contact me, because I can maybe go back to the buyer and find out if there's something else that would just a small change would make this offer better for you. Talk to me. I want to be there. I want to be the agent you do business with, and I want my buyers to win this house. So really understand your role in negotiating for the buyer. It's not just, here's a piece of paper, magic happened, you like my paper better than theirs. Make it about you too. And when you can offer that to the seller, because the seller wants this to be easy.
Right.
So the quality of the offer, the simplicity of the offer is literally the paperwork clean. There are sellers and agents who are gonna look at that and go, all right, this is gonna work because this person knows what they're doing. Just by the cleanliness of the thoughts, and is it clear and concise what you're offering? Or do you just send a bunch of discombobulated papers and there's 4 different emails that have all these different things? I don't know, you're not gonna want, one of the things you mentioned was making this simple, seller.
Okay.
I don't think that this buyer is gonna make this simple, because X, Y, Z, right? Make your offer the best offer. It doesn't just have to be home price.
Vendor coordination, so that's gonna be lender, title, inspector. You won't do appraiser, the lender will, but you're still gonna need to coordinate or communicate when that's happening. Pre-close preparation, that's interesting phraseology there. I don't know that I've pre-close preparation, so.
Just making sure you're keeping in touch with them,
Yeah.
that they know what's going on, what the steps are, when that final walkthrough is gonna happen. What is that gonna look like? I mean,
Like
if
a
you have somebody who's
weekly
buying
touch.
their first house, they don't even know what a final walkthrough is. Heck, maybe you don't know what a final walkthrough is right now. But being able to talk about that and making sure they're prepared and know what to bring, right? Did you bring a flashlight with you? I mean, seriously,
Right.
did you bring a flashlight with you on your pre-close? Because what does that crawl space actually look like? I mean, this is the last chance we got, right, to look in there and find out, oh my God, I don't want to go here because that's scary, right? What does that look like? Be prepared. Be prepared to help them be prepared.
There was something I was gonna say with that, but I lost it. Closing, a lot of times newer agents will say to me, okay, so like, do I need to be there? Like, should I bring a gift? Like, the thing is with. Yes, all of the above. With sellers, you're probably gonna pre-sign, so you're not gonna be there at the same time as the buyers. But either way, you wanna be there because it's another touch point. You wanna, take pictures, you wanna give them the keys, you're not gonna be doing paperwork with them. However, it is very important, because especially if they're brand new and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna be there. They're like, I don't know what to do. You'll be fine, right? No, you need to go. So,
You will do nothing.
you will do nothing.
Except be nice,
Smile.
pleasant, shake hands and kiss babies, but at a closing, you're not.
You know, I don't know if I should tell you guys this. I will. So, my little trick for making sure that, I get their birthday so that I can send them birthday cards is I always offer to make the copies at the copier, because I have my closings here. So then I just go take them, and then I'm like, okay. It was really simple. One of them, they had the same birthday. Super weird. I know, husband and wife, same birthday. And so, but then I texted to Irene, and I'm like, put it in there, this is their birthdays, right? Because where else would I know that? There's not really any documentation that I get as agent to fill that in. So, yeah, so anyway. And then post-closing, you want to continue to follow up, put them in command. You put their new address in command, right? Because maybe you have their old address, so update it. And make sure that, they're on your 36 touch and that you're reaching out to them on a consistent basis. How much more is there? Because we can.
So this one here, you're gonna zip through pretty quick because you already nailed it, most of these
Yeah.
items. They're
Yep,
just on
needs
the other side.
analysis. We talked about pricing strategy already earlier with the MLS. Oh my God. Property preparation. Holy cow, right? Andrew, you know what this is like. Like, here's what you gotta do, and then we need this to happen according to pictures. Marketing strategy. That's,
Letting them know how you intend to do this.
Yeah.
Typically post on Facebook.
Right.
I promote it on this ad.
Right.
You'll see it in MLS, you'll see it on
In my
Zillow,
office,
Realtor.com,
yeah.
here's where you're gonna, all these things. I send out flyers to everybody in the neighborhood.
We do open houses, we door knock beforehand, right?
What is your
Layout,
marketing strategy for their house? So
yeah.
they know what that looks like in advance. And if you've got an ABC compensation setup where I do this at 6%, I do this at 6.5%, I
Yeah.
do this at 7%,
Yeah.
so much the better, because that's gonna let them pick the marketing strategy that fits them best.
Receive an offer. I just want to say, with the way the market is now, and then we see it kind of changing, your marketing strategy is going to be important, because if stuff doesn't sell like that, they're going to be like, what are we doing? What are you doing, right? What are you doing to sell my house? Same with receiving an offer. It may take longer to get an offer. Once you get an offer, if you get multiples, you need to have a way that you're going to look through them and figure out what's the best, right? Command has a nice, what is it called? Spreadsheet, whatever, a thing that you can plug stuff into so you can kind of rate them on
Provide your feedback on the various
What's-
pros and cons.
right, pros and
of
cons.
The various offers that you see.
Negotiating to sell. So that's that piece where Jason said, okay, there's 5 offers, you are number 2. Is there anything you want to do to change your offer? Because I'm calling everybody that put in an offer and I'm letting them know. I don't call for highest and best because I don't like it. So I just say to them, if you want to get it in, we're just, get me the offer, right? We'll present it when we get it. And then if I say we ended up getting 3, then I'll talk to all 3 and negotiate for my client, instead of just saying, here's what's on the paper, we gotta pick one of these, right? So represent your client. Sell the house. Pre-close preparation, so the same kind of thing is staying in touch with them. Have a touch point Tuesday or follow-up Friday, whatever it is, and be consistent and reach out to them every week and just say, hey, here's this and that, and you want to be proactive so that they aren't asking you questions. Chad always tells me, if they ask me a question, then I failed, because I want to answer it before they've asked it, right? So I want to provide, you don't have to think that you failed, but it's just one of the things that,
Right.
that,
I wanna be so active.
right,
I wanna be so proactive
right.
that I'm ahead of the game.
What buyers want most from their agent, I
The
can't.
biggest thing is help to find the right home to purchase. That, in their mind, that's the most important thing. 52% of buyers. What's the most important thing to you? Help find the right home. So when you're thinking about your proposition, I'm gonna help you find the right home for you. You say that, that's designed to incline to address what most buyers are concerned about. On the other side, when they're choosing an agent, the thing that's most important to them is other.
Is
That's helpful.
super important
It
to
could be
other
a lot of
things.
different things, but the singular thing that's most important to them is, are you honest and trustworthy? That's a singular topic that's most important.
Other. I love
Other.
it.
Elevator acumen counts as other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
I meet all my
elevator has
people in elevators.
So much criteria to it.
Exactly.
You
You
know?
know how to push buttons, the right
Yeah.
buttons.
What sellers want most from their thing, help pricing the home and marketing the home's potential buyers. If your value proposition hits that segment, get 41% of potential sellers, right? On the other side, when they're choosing an agent, other. But again, it's being honest and trustworthy. So if honest and trustworthy isn't something you can promote about yourself, that's a really important thing. People don't think much of realtors. It's maybe news to you, because your mom says you're great, and you're a realtor, and your mom knows that, so she says you're great, so realtors must be great. But on the car salesman scale of the world, you're on the car salesman side, as opposed to the doctor side. So, honesty and trustworthiness is super important. Gotta be there. Part of your value proposition. Get your command out there, get the apps in there, start with your sphere. Work on it. Your value proposition, ultimately, you've got to work on it. What makes you different? Transform that and center on the benefits, into the benefits of your client, and then build that statement so you have it ready, and talk about it. And then there's the steps again.
We found this last week. It was like, oh yeah, we know this. It's just repeating it. Okay.
It's just a little bit easy. So,
Is there a way to get all of these slides, or are they company confidential?
well,
That's super
yes,
independent.
and you are part of the company.
You
So-
are part of the company.
Right here, KW Connect.
Okay.
I love it. Understand? kwconnect.com. You will need to be logged in at some point, either earlier in command, or you can log in here. But once you're in there, under training,
KWU.
Keller Williams University,
And they have a super fun student guide.
Oh
as
my
well.
goodness,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, 300.
so once you go to KW University, it's Ignite 2022. Under materials, find all of these sessions right here.
And then student files.
And if you're interested in a participant guide,
Guide.
there is, and Jess wasn't trying to be funny,
But it is
there
funny.
is a
355 pages.
355-page guide you can download to work along through this.
So,
Nope,
yeah,
nope.
they used to,
Don't
before it
even-
was digital, they used to have them in a binder, and it was this big. Everybody would bring it to class.
So I mean, hey, that's wonderful, and if we were doing a 20-session class, we might do it that way, but we're not.
We probably would never print it out.
Well, not anymore.
No.
I like the world, and I'd like it to be here for my children, so
Right.
355-page guides are not a good way to get it. So anyway, you'll find all these things here. This, by the way, also, if you haven't seen it a few times, this is the list of stuff that we'll be covering next week. Lead generation and growing your database.
Let's do it. So we didn't get to do calls. The tough thing is when we condense it like this, it's hard to, as you can imagine, still fit everything in. So that is the piece that I want you guys to do on your own. And if we have time next week, we will do it. So if there's any of those 5 people that you brought for this week that you haven't talked to, or you can bring 5 more next week, that would be awesome.
Right. We opened up this time today with
Yeah.
meeting everybody again.
And we talked about MLS for a while, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where that's
And that's really helpful, just giving us the practical stuff like that.
Right.
And just having you talk through the slides here is so much more helpful than us just browsing them. So I think just to stress the importance of what you're doing, it's good. So I guess if we had to, my opinion anyway, if we had to err on the side of, hey, let's explain what we're seeing on the slides versus let's break off and do a half hour of this.
Right.
I think the slides are.
Yeah, and the thing is that, we, in the past, we've done like a lead gen time, and we've done, we used to do Tuesday or Thursday mornings. So in the future, we can do that where we set a time and we get together and we make calls for half an hour or whatever it is, right? Because when you're in that, not where you said last week. So we have put it on speakerphone and everyone listens to me call. I was like, that is intense.
Feel the pressure.
We should do that. I mean, there's people who do that, but they're not us.
You know, hey, there's a lot of different ways to approach sales, and if that's something you want to be part of or be involved in, let me know. I will absolutely hang out with you, we'll make calls, we do our blue in the face, we'll take turns, we'll do different things, we'll talk to each other and see what ways work sense. My job, my goal is to help you be more successful. Now, my particular experience relates to sales and technology. I have never been the best cold caller, but I will get better sitting there with you, I promise. So I'm all in for it. I'll call your people if you want me to. Doesn't matter to me.
What's the price?
How much?
How much?
How much for that?
Hey, it's all fun. And, you know, I love Gary Keller one time talked about lead generation, and he gave a great comment about lead generation. People say lead generation is hard, and that's why they don't do it. It's not hard, it's just not fun. It's actually very simple, it's just not fun. Now, so if that's the case, then you just want to make it fun, right? And Tatiana, you haven't been there, and I don't know if Eric was there, but early on, you know, like Eli, we do those role plays, man, I'm having fun. I don't know if you are, but I'm having fun. And there's no way, I mean, if I'm calling somebody who I know, it's gotta be fun. So why wouldn't it be fun? So when he's talking about that, he's talking about actual legit cold calling, and there's a way to make that fun too. If you want it to be fun, it will be fun. It's all up here.
Yeah.
So, Tyler, thank you for coming tonight. It was great to have you as part of the gang. And we look forward to seeing you next time here on The Feud. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Beautiful presentation. Loved every minute of it.
That is some mixed metaphors I was throwing at you too, so I'm glad you were able to hang out with that. Have a great night, sir. We'll see you next time.
You as well.
Blessed week, Tyler.
Oh, I think it's his table got moved. Where's this table go?
Hey, Jason,
Yes.
are you just like a tech guy, or you can do like
So first,
social media
someone
stuff too?
kind of, well, I can't really go back, I'm going back to the CMA and kind of, because they're all
So,
listed at.
What I'm thinking